Hi, in this video I'll show you how to make a little virtual pet using the microbit Python coding interface. To get here, in your web browser, just go to python.microbit.org and you'll get to this microbit Python editor with the default program in it. So we're going to change the default program. What you want to do is find the line right after the while true and highlight those 3 lines of code and get rid of them. We will still keep the while true loop, so it'll constantly ask if there's any input, but instead of the default code, we'll replace it with our own code to make a little Tamagotchi, a virtual pet. So the Tamagotchi most Tamagotchis rely on button input, and so a microbit's a really cute way to make a basic Tamagotchi. Go down in your reference, and if you don't see your reference, you'll want to expand this little arrow on the side of your Python editor. Click on reference, and first we'll go to buttons. And then I like to make mine using the button is pressed method. So first I'll write some code for if button A is pressed, and just grab this little box under choose button A, drag it into your program, and you want to put it after the existing while true, and drop it there. You should see that that code is indented 1 level after the while true. You can choose to scroll text like this one is, but I prefer to show an image. So I'm going to get rid of this line that says display.scrollA, and then go back to my reference, choose display, and then I will choose a canned image, and for this case I'll choose a duck, and then pick up these 2 lines of code and drag them in, and it should be indented 1 level under the if button A is pressed. So if button A is pressed, it will do these 2 lines of code, and if button A is not pressed, it will skip these 2 lines of code. These are grouped together. The sleep is important. Python does not have any built-in delays, and so this delays for 400 milliseconds. There are 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second, so this is a slightly shorter than half a second delay that you'll get to see the duck on the screen. Okay, next we'll do the same thing but for button B. Go back to the reference, find buttons, go down to button is pressed and choose button B. Pick up that code and drag it in underneath the first if button A is pressed and indented to the same level. So we have if button A is pressed, 2 lines of code, and then indented to the same level as that if button B is pressed, and then some code. And just like before, instead of scrolling text, I'm just going to show an image. So we'll go back to the reference, do display, and then for this one I'll choose a butterfly if I can find it. I do not see the butterfly, but I think I know how to get it. This one doesn't show a complete list of all the images there, so I'll grab this code and drag it into if button B is pressed, indented 1 level underneath that. And to find the image that I'm looking for, I go to the end of the word heart, but before that parentheses. Don't get rid of that parentheses. Backspace back so you don't have the heart in there anymore, and hit a dot or a period, and then you can see all of the images that come with the microbit library. So if you scroll down in this list, then I find a butterfly, and I'll click that, and then that shows up inside my code. And again, I'll wait for 400 milliseconds. There's one last thing I want to do in here before I test it, and that is to add a default image that will show up if I'm not pressing any buttons. So right below the if button A is pressed and if button B is pressed, and then indented to the same level as both of the words if, I'm going to get one more display.show and drag it in there, and notice how it's indented just 1 level. I could have kept it outdented here, but it would never reach that code, so indent it 1 level. I'm going to get rid of the sleep. Having the sleep in there will just slow the code down. It's not necessary. We'll still be able to see the heart all the time, even if we don't have it. And I might keep this a heart, but I might back it up and change it to something different. I'll have it show a meh. Okay, basic virtual pet. When I hit play, it'll show the meh face by default. So this is happening because over and over again, forever, it checks to see if button A is pressed. Button A is not pressed, so it skips these 2 lines of code. It checks to see if button B is pressed. button B is not pressed, so it skips these 2 lines of code. Then it goes here and shows the meh face, and it goes back up to the while true and repeats the process. If I click on button A, I'll see a duck for a brief time. If I click button B, I'll see a butterfly for a brief time. Finally, you can add music to your little virtual pet by going back to the reference, scrolling down, and clicking on sound. So my favorite thing to do is just do a basic tune whenever I hit a button. You can find most tunes in this list here that I do for select tune for built-in music. So maybe, for example, I'll do power up if I hit the A button, and I'll pick up this code. I'm going to drag it into my function, and I want to place that music.play after I show the image, but before the delay. Okay, this means it's going to play the power up music, and then it will have a short delay, and then it will go on to the code from there. I will also pick a different tune to play, let's say jump up, if the button B is pressed. And again, I want to make sure it's indented to the same level as this code under the if, and I'm going to put it right after the display.show image.butterfly. Okay, one last thing, if you're playing a longer tune and you don't want to wait for that tune to finish before looking for input again, one thing you can do is you can make it not wait for this instruction to finish before it goes on. And you'll find this, how to do this, if you click on More in built-in music. And you'll see down here there's a little line of code that shows you how to add a wait equals false. So it won't wait for the music to finish. It'll go on to the next line of code anyway. If you pick up this and drag it into your code, I'm going to get rid of the image.snake after that line of code. I'll get rid of my original music, and I'm going to make it play the music that I want here. Music dot, what did I make this before? Power up. Okay, so the wait equals false means it'll start the music, it will do a short 400 millisecond delay, and then it goes on to the next line of code. You might want this if you want to still be able to continue pressing buttons while the music is playing in the background. So that's optional. And then you're about ready to upload this to your microbit and see the code on the real microbit. If you're using a V1 microbit, your teacher will show you how to use alligator clips to connect headphones or connect a small speaker so that you can hear the music play on the V1 microbit. The V2 microbit will play this music from the speaker in the back. Enjoy your virtual pet, and good luck!